So what you're looking for is cash flow, right? So your cash flow is your rent minus your expenses, right? And that's the money you get to put in your pocket. So if your rent is $1,000, so that's what you're pulling in. And so this is what you get from your tenants. I always budget for things like you're gonna need to spend, you're gonna have maintenance, right? So maintenance are things like toilet gets clogged and you gotta call a plumber, or the refrigerator stops working and you gotta, fix a part in the refrigerator. Your normal maintenance stuff, right? And so for me, that's always 5% of the rent each month. So your vacancy is, you're gonna have turnover, right? Tenants are gonna move out. And when they move out, you're gonna have to go in there, fix anything that needs fixing, maybe some touch-up paint, you're gonna have to have it cleaned, right? Change the locks, whatever, right? All that's gonna do, it's gonna cost you a little bit of money, and you're not gonna collect rent because it's probably gonna take you, between doing that stuff and getting somebody else in there, it might take you 30 to 60 days. So you might have a month or two where you gotta cover the note. So you need to budget another 5% of your rent each month to cover your vacancies when somebody moves out. You're also gonna have capital expense, right? They call it CapEx. CapEx is things on your house that are big ticket items that are gonna go bad over time, right? So you're gonna have your roofs, right? They only last a certain number of years, 20, 30 years. Roofs, central heat and air, HVACs, boilers, all those things only last a certain amount of time, and then you have to replace them. And so you need to be budgeting some of your rent each month and setting it aside for when those big expenses come up, right? And so for me, that's 10%, right? And then you also want to budget for property management, right? Now I self-manage. I manage my properties myself. And so I still budget prop management. I still budget 10% for that. And I do that because at some point my wife's going to tell me, stop doing that, spend time at home, and I'm going to have to pay somebody to manage my properties. And I don't want to buy something where the numbers only work if I don't have to pay property management, because then when I do got to give it to property management, now I'm losing money every month. And so I need my numbers to work with me paying property management. Now, because I don't have to pay a property manager, that cash flow goes back into my pocket, but I still budget for it, right? And so you need to be setting aside at least 30%, right, of your rent that goes into. So your expenses here all net to $300, right? And so that's those expenses. And then you also need your mortgage and your taxes and insurance, right? So you got your mortgage and your taxes and your insurance. Now, if you're on a typical conventional loan, all those will be escrowed in. It'll be one mortgage payment that covers all that, right? And so let's say your mortgage payment is $500, right? So let's say all this is $500. So 500, you take your rent minus your expenses. So you take this, you subtract your 300, you subtract your 500, right? And that's gonna leave you with $200, right? So $200 is your cash flow. That's the money you're making every month. That's your true cash flow. A lot of people will tell you, well, your rent is $1,000 and your mortgage is $500, so you're making $500 a month. That's not how it works, right? So you got to budget for all those. Make sure you're accounting for all these things.